In the videos that follow, we're going to be exploring a lot of the features of Cadworx Plant Professional software. And depending on the interface that you have or which version of Cadworx you're running, it might have a different look and feel to some of these videos. For instance, this is the latest look. You have a ribbon across in here, and you can get to the setup functions over here, or pull down the tool palettes, or work with isogen over here, or line numbers. So this is a very convenient interface. Some of you that are running earlier versions won't have this ribbon, but instead you'll have toolbars like these shown down in here. This is the settings toolbar, and this is the UCS toolbar. So a lot of the videos are recorded using toolbars in here, but it really doesn't matter. You can use anything, either one that you have, whatever's convenient. And if we're saying click on, say, set the size right in here, you can go right up here on your ribbon and click it. Or if we say set spec, you can go right here and click it. Or you can come over here on the settings toolbar and click it. So whatever's working, whatever's convenient, let's just use that. Also, we'll use a lot of hotkeys, and that hasn't changed from the very oldest version to the newest version. One thing I like to do, though, I do like to get this set of words across the top up here. This is called a menu bar. And no matter whether I'm running an old version or the latest version, if it's not appearing up here, if you don't see the word plant up here, just come down here in the command line and just type menu bar, one word, M-E-N-U bar, B-A-R, and set it to 1. And then you'll have access to this, because there's just a lot of nice features here you can get out of these cascading menus for things that you might want to do. So great. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to just merge this recording right into the front of the standard start. And those are recorded with some 2009 versions. We have mixtures. Later on in the lessons you'll get the tool ribbon, and some of them you'll have toolbars, but doesn't matter. It's just easy to get to no matter which version you're running. So great. I'm going to go ahead and fade this out now, and then we'll get it started. Welcome to the co-aid video training series on mastering Cadworx Plant Pro software. And this is lesson 1 in the piping module. In this lesson you'll cover quite a few new things. You'll begin to place some components up here, some of the fittings from Cadworx, and some piping down in here. You'll have some valves and some hand wheels. These circles represent hand wheels on valves coming toward us. Up here you'll be doing a bill of material. You'll generate that list. You'll have line numbering. You'll have labeling and annotation of the components. So there'll be a lot of things here that you'll cover for the first time. Now, one good way to work through this thing is to watch the videos for just a couple of minutes and pause them, and then do the exercises. Just do the steps. They're laid out step by step in the workbook, and just follow that along and do a few minutes of each. Watch the videos a little bit, do the workbook, and just go back and forth. And you can do this at your own pace. If you want to see something several times, you can replay it, and that way you control the speed of it yourself, and you can also really understand it that way. To get this started, I'm going to go ahead and close this drawing out, and then we'll start a new drawing. And I'll click New up here at the top. And in Cadworx, whenever you start a new drawing, you want to be sure and use a template. You could start from scratch or use a wizard, but you definitely want to use a template because it's going to have viewing variables set. It'll have a lot of things set in it that'll just save you a lot of trouble as you progress on your model. So one basic rule in Cadworx is start out a drawing using a template. We're going to do the metric here, and I'll just say OK. Then I'll click on Plant up here at the top, and I'll click on Setup, and I'll click on Size, and we'll set our sizes up. If I double click on 4, it'll put an M beside it. It'll set my main size to 4 inches. And then I'm going to double click on 6, and it'll put a reducing size of 6 here. So we'll start out with a main size of 4, and then later we'll have a reducer that goes from small end up to big end. And so our size will go from 4 to 6. This is just particular to this problem that we're going to be starting. If I click on Specification, it'll bring up a list of all the available specs in here, and these ship with Cadworx. And if I do this 150_M here, it's the one that we'll use. It will have imperial bore sizes in it, and the length measurements of the components will be in metric. This one above it is just an imperial size. It'll be imperial bore sizes, imperial lengths. The one below it would be metric diameters, metric bore sizes, and metric lengths on the fittings. So we'll do this one. We might call it a mixed metric. Down in here will be the stainless steel versions of those. 300 pound specs, stainless, carbon steel, 600s, 900, 1500. Here's a copper spec, some food, fiberglass reinforced pipe, hygienic, line pipe, PVC, sanitary, swedge lock. A lot of specs built into here. If we counted these, it'd probably be about 75 or so. And Cadworx has over 40,000 components built into it. So I'll just say open here. And then looking at the screen, we'll have 3D checked on. We'll start out actually in 3D on this first little problem that we're going to work on. If we wanted to, we could do it in 2D or we could do it in single line. Cadworx doesn't care. It places the components and then it reads the center lines and it'll let you represent these graphics as double line or as 3D solids or however you want it to represent it when it shows it. Smaller components will typically be threaded. But we could have both, and we'll actually have both visible and we can select from either one once we get going. The layering system, Cadworx has its own layering system that it builds. If you want to, you can rename these things or you can add new ones. We won't change them, and most people don't. These are typically sufficient for most work. And then there's also a configuration button. If I click on it, you can see that I'm in metric inch on my configuration. There's just a lot of options and switches you can set here. If you're a fabricator and you want to bring in weld gaps, you could turn that one, set it to 1, and between your welded components it would put a weld gap automatically. Just different things down in here. For instance, when I get down here on specifications, if I wanted to have a read-only folder on my network where all my specifications were stored, we could point to it right here and then one person could control those. So this is where you go to set up a variety of switches and settings for your system. We probably won't change things here. Let's just take a look for a minute though. Here's a tooltip setting that we could look at. If I click that and go to settings, then any of these little variables here could be checked on and they would display when I hover over a Cadworx component. It would show me that information. Alright, so this is good. I'm going to just cancel out of this. We really haven't done anything. And now I'll click on scale over here. I'll click scale and I'm going to set it to be 1 to 20. This will just be scaling up the annotation, the dimensions and the lettering for me. And then I'll go ahead and click on border and we'll do a predefined border. If we wanted to do your own border, you just click here and then you go browse and get it. So Cadworx is very friendly in letting you get any border that you would want to use. It ships with a number of them. We'll just click on there and we'll just take one of these. Let's go ahead and get this this 594 by 420 here. We'll just use that one. And also, if later when we wanted to put a border in paper space, we could do that by checking this. But we're going to put it in model space and have it scaled up. And then finally, if I wanted to click here, I could put in a little time and date stamp right here. It would appear down here in the corner of that border. I'm going to just, I'll click that on and I'll say OK. And it comes on up. And if I wanted to fill out attributes here for this border, I could do so. I'm going to just OK right on through that. The next thing we want to do here is set up a tool palette so that it's real easy to get components in Cadworx into the model. What I'm going to do is I'm going to type the word spec view, S-P-E-C-V-I-E-W, and what that will do is that'll go ahead and bring up a Cadworx tool palette for me to work with. And I can look over here and see a variety of icons that represent fittings, and then for instance, if I look at a T here, I can see that this one is a straight T, and there's a description, and that description is what will show up in the material list. The ones in red here represent reducing fittings. So this list of things that shows up here in this box are based on the size settings that we gave and the spec that we gave. And so these are allowable fittings within that size and spec. If we just look for a moment, let's see, there's a few more buttons up here. If we hover over one, we'll get a little tip that will tell us that's the spec editor. This is the line number setup. This will let us set a line number off a list of existing line numbers, and this will let us reset a size and spec and line number from a component that's already in the drawing. So what I want to do now is keep this setup. I want to be able to restore this at any time, and we do that through something called a workspace. Older versions of AutoCAD didn't have that feature, but in the newer ones it does, and so you can save all your tool palettes, your toolbars, the way your screen is set up. It'll all just restore if you need to, if the setup should change as you go along. someone else comes in and does some work, or you do some other kind of work, you can always restore this. And the way we do it in 2009, we click on this little button here and we can just say save our current workspace like this. In the older versions of AutoCAD that have this, there's usually a little toolbar up in here that have workspace on them. Or we can always just type it. I'm going to do that. I'm going to just type workspace. I'm going to do SA for save as, and I'm going to call this one Cadworx Spec View. And it'll take a little time, but it'll go ahead and save this. And it looks at everything up here, and it saves it for me. So down the road, if I had some regular AutoCAD going on and I wanted to restore this, I could just come right here to this little button, and I could say, okay, well, get me an AutoCAD Classic setup, or get me a 3D modeling, or no, get me a Cadworx Spec View setup. So that's what we want to do. And now we'll save the drawing. I'll go File, and I'll do a Save As, and we'll put this over here on the C drive in a folder called Cadworx Video Training. This install when you installed your DVD for your training folder or for your course. And there's a folder in here called Lessons. If we click on there, we could just call this one Lesson-1. I've got a variety of drawings saved down in mine, but what we want to do is just save this drawing under the name Lesson-1, and then we'll hit the save, and then we can go on from here.